Today we get a chance to look at probably one of the least common installation errors I see in shingles nowadays. You used to see it a lot more prior to 2000, prior to the new millennium. Some of you probably already spotted it, but as we walk down, you'll see it a little more. It's marked out here. And so there's been a lot of different names for this over the years. Some of them call it witch stepping. Some of them call it stair stepping. Some of them call it racking. And so what we have here is here's the seam to a shingle. Here's the next seam. Cool. So it's got a little bit of an offset. It's still too little. Then we go to the next shingle, and it's going back and forth. And so what that's doing is all the expansion and contraction in the roof is now concentrated about every 39 to 40 inches in this pattern. So this creates a lot of different things. So first off, with all the expansion and contraction in one spot, as you can see, every shingle is loosening up faster than it should. As that shingle ages, expansion and contraction is going to be concentrated in those points. So that's going to cause those shingles to crack and tear more often, a lot more rapid than they would across a normal roof that was actually done properly. You're actually going to see a little bit more granule loss in those areas, as well as a higher sensitivity to hail damage, although that's very minor compared to a lot of these other issues, because for it to even last long enough can be pretty rare. You're going to notice a lot more water is going to get inside these areas. There's going to be a higher likelihood of leaking, and here's actually a perfect example. So that nail is rusted, that nail is not. Now the odds of that creating a leak are a lot lower. Now nails being lower can cause it too. Shorter step there can cause that to be amplified as well. The likelihood of these leaking is a lot more. The likelihood of wind damage is a lot greater. And not just for one or two shingles, but for them to come off as clumps, because now, as opposed to any wind load being distributed in kind of a diagonal pattern, which spreads it out a lot more, it's going to be going straight up and down. It just creates a lot of issues down the road over the lifespan of the roof. And depending on what kind of shingle you have, how good that seal is to begin with, it can create issues a lot more or a lot less. If you had a brand like Owens Corning, which has the Sure Nail sealing strips, because those tend to bond together a lot more, the odds of it tearing prematurely is a lot higher with brands like that than with brands that have a lot weaker strips. What's ironic about this is the higher the wind rating of the shingle for the laminate shingles, the more likely that stacking like this is going to cause issues earlier on. So shingles that underperform in high wind environments perform better when you have this installation error. There's very, very few brands on the market that have ever allowed it, and almost none of them that still allow it for these laminate shingles. I'm not going to say there's none, because there's so many different varieties out there. There's always that one that is, 20 years behind the market on making rules, or that thinks they're exempt. I mean, heck, if you want a perfect example, look at Firestone's opinion on TPO compared to everyone else. They completely believe that they're above every installation defect that has ever happened, basically. Yeah, look at what happened to them on the market over the years, when that proved to be, no, they're just as susceptible as everyone else. You see the same issue with Tamco shingles, believing that they were above rectifying an issue that everybody else already knew about for over 4 decades. CertainTeed and their bleed out decided that, all the stuff that happened in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s didn't matter, that they could produce a product that, oh yeah, this is not going to have the same issue as all those other products in the 90s and 2000s. And like I said, there's always that manufacturer that allows it. I do know of one that used to allow this up until about 4 or 5 years ago. Ironically, one of the brands that never ever once keeps true to its warranty promises. And so this is just a warning against this kind of installation method. If you see it on your roof and you have a brand new roof, I highly recommend getting a consultant involved to check other details. This is a very, very simplistic detail that almost every brand out there on the side of their packaging tells you not to do this. So it's not even a matter of can you read the packaging, which is in English and Spanish, sometimes also in French and other languages. They even show pictures demonstrating this. A lot of them, free installation manuals online in 7, 8, sometimes 24 different languages. So you can do a quick Google search and find the information. If somebody gets such a basic detail wrong as this on a brand new roof, I'm not saying it's an automatic that the whole roof is a failure, but I'd say it's probably one of the biggest red flags because it's so simplistic that even your average DIYer knows better than this.